Okay, I'm going to call a special meeting of the Carmel-by-the-Sea Planning Commission to order. I want to welcome everybody here today. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Delves?
Here.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Here.
Commissioner Locke?
Here.
Chair LePage?
Here.
And Commissioner Allen is absent.
All right. First item on our agenda is the public appearances. Under the Brown Act, public comments for matters on the agenda must relate to that agenda item, and public comments for matters not on the agenda must relate to the subject matter jurisdiction of this legislative body. Hateful, violent, and threatening speech is impermissible public comment as it disrupts the conduct of the public meeting. This is a warning that if a member of the public attending this meeting remotely violates the Brown Act by failing to comply with these requirements of the Brown Act, that speaker will be muted. So at this time, we open up the meeting to anybody that would like to make a comment which are on items which are not on our agenda tonight and which relate to municipal concern, which is under the jurisdiction of this body. So I invite anybody from the public that would like to make a comment at this time to come forward. I don't see anybody in the hall coming forward. So is there anybody online? I can't see the...
No one's raising their hand, sir.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on from the public appearances and comments. And are there any announcements from any members of the commission? Any announcements from staff? Okay. All right, that moves us on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the public or the commission may request that items be pulled for further discussion. We only have one item on the consent agenda tonight. That's the monthly activity report from the Planning and Building Department. Anybody want anything pulled? Any questions from the public? Okay, I will make a motion that we accept the consent agenda, item number 1.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes. You got me on a pretty short leash here. I'm going to have to get over here with Okay. That moves us to the public hearings. All right. The first one on the public hearing is a design review. This is DR 23-370. This is Vesuvio's restaurant. This is consideration of a track 1 design. Review referral to the Planning Commission for existing string lights on the rooftop dining area of the Vesuvio restaurant located at the northwest corner of 6th Avenue and Junipero. So can we have the staff report, please?
Well, thank you, Chair LePage, and good afternoon. So this first item on your agenda is a design review application for a commercial building, which is occupied by the Vesuvio restaurant. It is a request for after-the-fact approval of string lights, which are located on the rooftop dining area of the restaurant. This is a 2-story building, and the rooftop dining has been in place since 1977. The restaurant currently operates or is allowed to operate from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. In 1996, there was an application for rooftop lighting that was denied at that time because it was visible from the public way. The applicant has indicated in their application that string lights have been in place on the rooftop since 2011. So just a couple of pictures from Google Street View. You can see that the poles and the string are in place in June of 2011. This was before the rooftop expansion. This is what it looked like in December of 2016. You can clearly see the string lights are in place. Again in 2017. And again, these are just clips from Google Street View. So the string lights have been there for quite some time. Here's another photo from 2018, and then from 2023. So just really briefly, you may recall that at the At the end of the COVID emergency declaration, the City Council had directed staff to work with the local restaurants and wine tasting rooms with regards to their outdoor seating and their outdoor lighting, and get them in compliance, permitted where they could get permits, and then remove where permits could not be granted. So this is an outgrowth of that. So while these string lights have been in place for a long time, this was an effort to get them permitted as a result of the post-COVID enforcement. So there's a couple different policies and guidelines that govern string lights. The first comes from the general plan, which says to limit exterior lighting to preserve the traditional low levels of illumination. We also have the commercial design guidelines, which speak to lighting being the minimum required for public safety. And then it also spells out what types of lighting are inappropriate for our commercial area. Lastly, it says that lighting fixtures should be discrete or compatible in design with the building. Additional regulations are contained in the Carmel Municipal Code under the special design topics section, which states that physical structures that enhance comfort, such as windscreens, heaters, and exterior lighting, shall be shielded from view from the public right-of-way or shall be designed to be architecturally compatible. Also, I'll just note kind of at this stage, most of the commercial uses are required to be conducted wholly within doors. There are only a handful of commercial uses that are allowed to operate outdoors. Outdoor seating associated with restaurants is one of them, and so that's what this section is speaking to, is that outdoor seating. And then the next section talks about light fixtures not being directed toward the public right-of-way. Lastly, there are some standards in the Building and Fire Code about temporary installations of string lights not exceeding 90 days. And so we took all of these different policies and regulations into consideration when reviewing this application. So the proposal is for 5 strands of string lights. Each strand is 24 feet long and has 8 lights per strand. They are Edison style bulbs. I do apologize that the picture is kind of covering up the site plan there. But underneath that picture of the bulbs is the roof layout of the seating area, the dashed line representing the string lights. So again, these are Edison style bulbs. The applicant is aware of the regulations regarding lighting in the commercial district and is proposing this lampshade, which would cover the bulb and shield that light, which would keep the illumination level lower than the bulb being exposed. The power source for the outdoor lighting is shown here in this picture. It's an outdoor outlet. It does look to be commercial grade. However, according to the building code, the temporary wiring is limited to 90 days. So if the Planning Commission were to approve the application, an electrical permit for permanent hard wiring would be required. So the first option available to the commission is that you could find that the string lights are sufficiently shielded from view with the addition of the lampshades, and approve the project as it's proposed. And staff has prepared a draft resolution that you could adopt this afternoon if that is your determination. Your other option is that you could find the string lights are not sufficiently shielded because they are still visible from the street below. And you can provide direction on whether, with the addition of the shades, they're architecturally compatible with the village character. So the code has an either or. Either you can't see them, or if you can see them, they have to be architecturally compatible. So that is a determination that you can make. If you find that, as proposed, they're compatible, again, you can approve the project. But if they're incompatible, then you have a couple of options there. You can direct the applicant to relocate the string lights either below the parapet or set them back from the edge of the building so that they can't be seen. Or you could direct the applicant to select an alternative style of lighting, or you could just deny the project. So again, we have prepared a draft resolution. If you'd like to approve it as proposed, that concludes my presentation. Just a building permit would be required. So these would be the only two special conditions if you chose to approve it. And I'm available for any questions.
Marnie, could you speak a little bit more about that architectural compatibility clause?
Yeah, so the commercial design guidelines say that if lights are visible from either the public way or from an intra-block walkway, then the lights need to be architecturally compatible with its surroundings. So the buildings and the context kind of surrounding where they are installed.
But we don't have any standards or definition of what is architecturally compatible.
No.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is the alternative lighting source in this area, or are the string lights the only way to illuminate the space?
So they do have fire pits up on the rooftop, so that does provide some lighting. I don't recall seeing any other light fixtures on the rooftop, but I think the owner could clarify if there are.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite the applicant forward. I just want to say real quickly, I allow 3 minutes for public comment, 5 minutes for the applicants. If rebuttal is needed, I will grant that. But come forward.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. Thank you so much. Rich Pepe. My wife Sandy is here also. Everything's fine on the very good staff report. Thank you so much. When we bought the building and Piatti was still there, and then they decided to move out a year or so later, so we had opened up Vesuvio and worked with Mark Weiner, and excuse me, there was no light source up there. There was no other lighting up there at the moment, and this was the best we could come up with at the moment. And it wasn't permitted, but Mark said, let's just do it and we'll attend to it later. So here we are 13 years later, and now we're attending to it. Mark had left, and a variety of other staff members had left too. So, here we are. We think that it may be compatible. Like you said, Commissioner LePage, there's really no design standards. If you showed us a bulb that we could source and install, we would do that. We're not necessarily locked into this look and feel up there, but it's the best thing we have so far. Let me think. Over the years, nobody's ever really complained about it, not even the hotel across the street or passers-by or residents. Let me see what else. I mentioned earlier, there are no other light sources, but maybe we could come up with a different solutions should you so desire. Certainly willing to work with staff on that. Other than just the light from the low fire pits, and maybe some of you folks have been up there once or twice before, it's really not enough light to be truly safe. So some kind of lighting would be helpful. Brandon had come up one day and met me up there and looked at it, and he thought that what we have there right now, shielded by the plastic cone that you saw in the drawing, would be a good idea. So we went in that direction rather than trying to redesign the entire rooftop lighting system. If necessary, we could bring in a lighting expert, but we're willing to see whatever you like us to do. But I think some sort of additional lighting other than the fire pits would be helpful, especially in the off-season months when it's dark at 5:30, 6 o'clock. It's a little bit dark up there when the fog is in. There's really no moonlight. But that's about it for us. Thank you. Like I said, Marnie, great staff report, very thorough. No issues on our part, and whatever you decide, we're certainly willing to work with you. Be great for us if you just left it the way it is, but if we have to make adjustments, we're certainly willing to do that. Any questions for me?
Rich, are those LED bulbs, or
Yes.
they are? Okay.
And
Any other
so-
questions for the applicant? Any other comments?
Yes, the last thing, and Brandon said, LED is a soft version, and if it was shielded, you don't really see that light source from the street. I know that, can you see it from the street? Obviously, you can. It's very difficult. It's I think it's the only rooftop outdoor upstairs lights that you can see in town, so it is a unique situation. So any consideration you can give, we'd certainly appreciate it, but again, we're willing to work with you in any way possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite members from the public if they'd like to make comments regarding this application. Okay, nobody coming up from the chamber. Anybody online? Leah?
No one has their hand raised, sir.
I'm sorry, you said? No?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Locke, you want to begin?
Sure. Yeah, I think I can attest to the fact that these lights have been up for the entire time that it has been Vesuvio. It's an interesting question, the architecturally compatible use. To me, the rooftop restaurant area is kind of a festive, kind of happy place where people gather, and I associate that type of use with lighting that is festive, which I consider string lighting to be kind of festive. And so, I mean, I could make that jump that a restaurant use with the string lights is architecturally compatible. You think today versus 10 or 15 years ago, I mean, we've expanded to where we have outdoor heating sources that we didn't have 15 years ago that are fairly discreet, so it opens up our outdoor areas for people to use where we didn't have the ability to do that. And I think we need to kind of consider that change in the whole makeup of our commercial businesses. And I just really think that in the restaurant business, the outdoor dining, people love it. They want to be there. We've seen that with all of the outdoor dining that's been occurring around here. And safety is number one, of course. This is one way that they can get light that people can see where they're going. And you can think of alternatives, and which might be things like LED lighting on the tabletop or lighting around the lower part of the deck area, but is that really going to be sufficient to provide the safety that this more that the string lights will provide? I think that the use of the cone things is great, and I have never seen those before, and I think that actually is something that would be encouraged going forward if we approve this tonight. And I guess that's really what I have for comments.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Dels?
Yeah, I tend to agree with my colleague. First and foremost, I think dining outside at any hour is consistent with the architectural character of our community for all restaurants. I think that one of the tasks that's been given to this body, the Planning Commission, is to post-COVID, get ourselves in order and help all of our restaurants get their exterior seating up to date, consistent, safe, welcoming, et cetera. And I think that's what we've been doing for the last 6 months, is finding a way to get to yes on as many of these as we can. We've got some more tonight. So I do think that these string lights are the only source of light up there. I agree with everything you've said about safety. I think with the cones, the visibility from the street will be different. I think the outdoor deck, upper deck patio that you have is unique in town, and I think it's become part of the town. And I have no objection to seeing lights on up there in the evening. So I'm ready to approve this resolution.
Commissioner Karapetkov.
I think it's an example of a temporary solution that became permanent, right? You know, there was a quick decision to put the lights, and then they became the kind of the only lights on top. After so many years, I would say it's probably not a bad idea to look at permanent solution that is in line with our architectural guidelines and with safety standards as well. It's not that the lighting is bad or anything that exists right now, but it could be much better. It could be made much better if experts look at that, like lighting experts look at that and propose a solution that is maybe built into the wall, that is more subdued, that allows you to see the sky instead of seeing the bright light coming from the top. Maybe even have some, experience element. I don't want to go too deep into that, but the name of the restaurant is Vesuvio, so if you can do lights that look like lava float or something like that, that would be interesting, right?
So, that didn't work out real well for Pompeii.
That didn't work out, no. But what I'm saying is that, the town has developed and the requirements from our visitors and tourists have developed. So it's a good opportunity to have a look at that and figure out if we can do better than just having, a light string from Amazon hanging over the Vesuvio rooftop. Thank you.
Okay, there's some interesting comments. Yeah, with the architectural standards thing is pretty subjective, and I think, you have to look at the use. It's an outdoor area. It's open at night. It needs lighting, and there's two kinds of lighting. There's area lighting. There's task lighting. The lights on the table, that's task lighting. The lights that they're presently using, that's a type of area lighting. You particularly need the area lighting for safety. I think the suggestion to put the little shades on them, I think that takes care of the big issue of seeing the light bulb and the filament directly from the street. So I am prepared to support that. And we have a resolution, which I don't have open. You got that open there?
I got it.
You got it. So,
the only thing I'll just point out for all of our benefit and for the public is that this does subject this to a building permit and therefore an electrical permit as well to essentially upgrade, to review and if necessary, upgrade what's up there.
sorry for the delay here. I was just getting that open. Make sure I got the right one here. Okay, so this is a resolution for approval. I don't know if the condition was added about the shades. I don't see that. So I would recommend whoever makes the motion, they add that in the special conditions.
I'm looking for it.
Maybe in the authorization.
Pardon?
It may be in the authorization, or it may not.
Authorization.
That would be the only other place.
It's not part of the resolution?
Yeah, it says, "The project shall be implemented as depicted in written documents and verbal statements provided to the Planning Commission on June 11th, 2024, unless modified by the conditions of approval conditioned therein." I'll make a motion to approve this resolution with adding an additional sentence to the authorization, item number 1, that shall be implemented as depicted in written documents and verbal statements provided here, and so comma, to include individual
The shades as
individual lights.
presented by the plans.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karapetkov?
No.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the next item on the public hearings tonight. This is a use permit. This is UP 23-330 and a design review, DR 23-339. This is for the Le Escargot Restaurant. It's consideration of to establish up to 24 outdoor seats, repave the outdoor patio, and replace 6 portable heaters within a courtyard. It's located on Mission Street 2 southwest of 4th Avenue.
And Chair, I have to recuse myself.
Okay,
because I live too
Commissioner Locke
close.
has to recuse herself. Okay, can we have the staff report, please?
Yes. Okay, so the next item on your agenda is the Le Escargot restaurant. So this is another full-line restaurant. It was established in 1962. It is currently in the residential and limited commercial district where full-line restaurants are no longer permitted. So it is a legal non-conforming restaurant. It predates both the zoning as well as the requirement for a use permit. The restaurant is currently operating from 5:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. 7 days a week. And the restaurant has a 780 square foot courtyard in front that has been used as outdoor seating. Again, related to the COVID emergency, seating was allowed to be placed outdoors. This one is wholly on private property, and the request is for permanent outdoor seating. So similar to the last application, this is another implementation effort of the City Council's direction to help our local businesses get the proper permitting for their outdoor seating. So as I mentioned, full-line restaurants are no longer allowed in the RC zoning district. However, this restaurant was established prior to the change in zoning. So some of the limitations on the restaurant as a non-conforming use include not being able to increase the floor area or the building envelope, and they are not proposing to do either of those. And then also they cannot expand or extend within an existing building. So their existing footprint is what they are allowed to operate in, and that is not proposing to change, but they do want to establish this outdoor seating component on a more permanent basis. So the first consideration before the Planning Commission is whether or not establishing that outdoor seating on a permanent basis constitutes an expansion of the existing use. So under the letter of the law, they are not increasing floor area or the building envelope, and they are not expanding or extending within the building. So those are straight from the code. The code does not prohibit expansion outdoors. And as we mentioned last time in the last application, there's only a handful of businesses that are allowed to operate outdoors, and full-line restaurants are one of those outdoor seating. So it could very well be that this was written intentionally to exclude that, but it's a determination for the Planning Commission to consider this afternoon. So if you decide that the establishment of the outdoor seating is not an expansion of the use, you can approve the use permit for the outdoor seating and then consider the design elements that the application is proposing as far as improvements within that courtyard. If you find that establishing the outdoor seating is an expansion of the existing use, you might want to consider whether that expansion is because they're increasing the number of seats by proposing half of the indoor seats outdoors, so 24 additional seats, or if the determination is based on expansion of the footprint that they're using. So there's some interpretation that needs to kind of take place there. If you decide that it's not an expansion of the existing use, We do have an alternative proposal, and I'm not sure if it's later in my presentation, but the applicant is open to looking at different outdoor seating configurations that might help that conversation, and I think I might get to that towards the end. So the design considerations that are before you, should you choose to approve the outdoor seating, they're laid out again in the section special design topics of the municipal code. The first standard is that it will not result in a net increase of seating capacity unless it's approved through a use permit. So that's what you're considering this afternoon. Also, that the seating shall not occupy more than 10% of the entire site or no more than 30% of the courtyard. So the area of the outdoor seating there is outlined in red. In doing the calculations, staff finds that the proposal meets this standard. It does not exceed more than 10% of the site or more than 30% of the courtyard. The next consideration is that the seating is fully contained on private property, which it is, that it would not interfere with automobile or pedestrian traffic, which staff believes it does not. And there's no intra-block walkway on the property, so we don't need to consider that. The next item is that the seating area is demarcated by landscaping or other features to clearly define the boundaries. I've outlined in green those areas of landscaping which define the boundaries of the outdoor seating area. Also, the outdoor seating area will allow visual contact and incidental communication between the patrons of the restaurant and passersby. I had intended to put some pictures on here for you, but that did not work. But you can see based on the relationship between the outdoor seating area and then Mission Street off to the right, there is a dedicated sidewalk, and so it would allow for that interaction. The next design consideration has to do with physical structures, such as heaters. Similar to the lights that we just discussed, these elements should be shielded from view or architecturally compatible. The applicant is proposing 6 temporary portable heaters. They do have a plan for a phase 2 project for additional improvements in the courtyard if the outdoor seating is approved, and that would include the permanent installation of heaters. So there is a special condition for the commission's consideration to allow the portable heaters on a temporary basis while they work on phase 2, should you decide to approve this application. Next, there are some commercial design guidelines that apply to outdoor seating. The applicant is proposing to replace the existing asphalt area with pavers. They would be permeable, which is encouraged by the commercial design guidelines, and you can see the earth tone colors that they have proposed. They're also proposing to replace the asphalt sidewalk along Mission Street with a paver that's compatible but has a different mix of colors to sort of differentiate the public way from the private property. So I apologize. So I just want to go back to something that I had mentioned earlier in the conversation about the non-conforming use being expanded. I have had conversations with the restaurant owner. If the commission is not comfortable with up to 24 seats outdoors, he has indicated a willingness to take some of the indoor seats and place those outdoors, so there's no net increase. So that is an option. However, the proposal before you is for half of the interior seats, which is allowed under the water district's regulations. So there are a couple options for your consideration this afternoon. Staff is recommending that you do approve the use permit for outdoor seating, and we do have some special conditions associated with that. The first is the maximum being 24, should you find that is appropriate. limiting the hours of service to the current hours for the restaurant, allowing the temporary propane heaters for up to 12 months while they pursue other improvements, and then just making sure that the propane is stored in a safe manner during that time. So that will conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Marnie, we don't have a resolution for the design review in this packet. Am I understanding that correctly or I'm not?
The intent was that if you approve the use permit, you would approve the design review to go with it. That was the intent.
Is there language in the resolution to cover that? I mean, I'm sorry, if you could just point out to me if there's some language that says
Sure.
something
Let me
about
just-
that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, so the title of the resolution does include both the use permit and the design review. And then the authorization in number 1,
Yeah, it's got it.
yeah, does include the
It's an
permeable
authorization,
pavers.
Number 1? Okay, all right.
And she has findings for the use permit, and then below that, findings for,
Yeah, okay, I see it. All right, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, any other questions for staff from the commissioners? Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite the applicant to come forward and make their presentation.
Just wanted to thank staff, Brandon, Sullivan, and especially all the hard work Marty has put into that. That was very impressive, just not knowing what you guys do here, but I mean, that's a lot of work. I'm not really, the idea of the project is to beautify, repave. I'm not looking to expand the restaurant's business. I mean, I know it says 24 seats, but about half the time, a little bit more half the time, outdoor seating is just basically unusable because of the weather and whatnot. And you don't seat every seat every night. So I can just tell you right now, in May, we did 122 outdoor diners. It's not bad, but it's less than 4 people a day. So it's only during those days when the weather is good that there will be, substantial use of that area. I don't know, have any questions for me?
Are there any questions for the applicant?
No?
No, thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the planning commission regarding this application? Come forward, Mr. Pepe.
Sorry, Rich Pepe, I remember when some of these other situations came up and bunches of restaurateurs came up in support. But in this case, seeing as how I am here, I want to compliment the applicant on operating a wonderful business, legendary L'Escargot for many, many years. A couple of owners, Yvonne Nopere started it. I don't know if it was in the 50s or 60s. And I think this would be a nice little addition to town to have a few more outdoor seats over there. Even though he's in that the non-conforming use category here. I can really support this, and I hope that you would see fit. Like the applicant said, people do want to sit outside. We all recognize that, and I think that would be nice for that neighborhood even to have another few outdoor dining seats available. And so thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments, Rich. Anyone else in the chambers would like to address the planning commission regarding this application? Anybody, any hands up there?
I don't see anyone raising their hand.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Karapetkoff, would you like to lead off?
Yes. So the first thing is that I look for this ordinance 8414, try to figure out exactly the language of prohibiting full-line restaurants in the RC area, and also the definition of expansion. It would be useful if we have some definition of expansion, because now I know what is not considered an inspection for expansion, but I'm not sure that I know what is considered an expansion. Based on the history of the restaurant, getting a liquor license was not considered an expansion. Adding additional seats outside, is that an expansion or not? But I think the reason behind the RC designation was, and the reason why they didn't want to allow full-line restaurants in RC area is to limit the hustle and bustle in the residential areas, right? To limit traffic, to limit issues with parking, noise, etc. So I understand that this restaurant has been very well integrated into the community. I just want to make sure that we don't have these issues. By adding these seats, we're not creating any problems with traffic, with parking, with noise. I'm a little concerned that none of the neighbors has provided any letters of support or disagreement. I would love to hear a little bit more from the community what they think about this expansion. I assume they have been notified. I'm just surprised that they haven't provided any feedback. In the absence of any feedback from the community, I would say, yes, let's do it. That would be my view. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Dels?
Yeah, so I know this restaurant, and it's unique in our community and its location. It really is part of a neighborhood. Although it is, there's another restaurant across the street and just down a few doors, the Something Gem. It's been changing names a little bit lately. And then just right across the street from that is the Stillwell Hotel. So we're very much in a transition zone there, regardless of the specific zoning. And I think that for this restaurant to be there is entirely appropriate. I think it's embraced by the neighborhood, frankly. I mean, we certainly do embrace it. I've always been struck by the really bad curb appeal of both your restaurant and the Gem across the street. It's a sort of welcome to my parking lot. And once you get to the front door, it's great, and it's a warm, inviting place. And I think I suspect you have a lot of local traffic because we know that, right? Because we know what's back there. So I think the overall proposal here is to really give yourself a lot better street presence. I think it will look better for not just you, but for the neighborhood. I think the improvements to the sidewalk are terrific, really. And then your patio as well. In terms of the specific questions asked of us, I don't think this is an expansion of the use. I think an expansion of the use of a full-line restaurant would be to expand into something other than a full-line restaurant. If you started selling apparel, that would be an extension, I believe. And we have in the code, we have uses that are allowed. And to me, full-line restaurant is a use, and we're not expanding into any of the other uses that are in the tables in the code. It's an expansion of seats, and this is again something we're dealing with every restaurant that wants to have a conversation about sort of legalizing, if you will, the outdoor seating. I think we need to be consistent in how we are applying this. In this particular case, we're also dealing with the uniqueness of it being in the SC zone and a legal non-conforming item, but I don't see any reason for us to treat this restaurant different from any other restaurant. And typically what we are doing is saying as long as the water district is okay with it and the fire department is okay with it from a health and safety standpoint, I'm okay with it, and I think we are okay with it is what we've been doing so far. And the number of seats, again, it's 48 inside, so therefore 24 outside, if I have that right. That's what we approved elsewhere, so I'm ready to approve that here. I think you've measured the 30% of the patio rule consistent with what we've done elsewhere, where we're really measuring where the tables are and not trying to include all the circulation space. And that's not unique to this one. We've done that for all of them. So for all those reasons, I would be prepared to approve this.
Okay. I'm in agreement with the comments from my fellow commissioners. I just want to say one additional thing, though. I think the fact that it is non-conforming does add character to the neighborhood. I mean, obviously, we've decided that the RC district is going to be a transition district between the residential and the commercial, so that was the thinking, that we didn't want to have a lot of these. But if you look at cities across, the nation, you see these little non-conforming uses. A lot of times you'll see a little neighborhood market, there'll be a little restaurant that was there before the current zoning, and it really adds a lot of character to it. And as Commissioner Dell says, those little places become really loved little spots that the neighbors, use and so forth. And this restaurant has a lot of connection to the community. I mean, it's got a lot really going for it. And I see this as not an expansion of use, and I think the improvements are to be supported. So I would make a recommendation that we have a motion for this resolution. As it's written, I don't think there's anything that needs to be changed.
I'll move to approve the resolution provided in our packet by staff.
Okay, I'll second that. Is there any more discussion?
No.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Delbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, motion is carried. Thank you. We will welcome back Commissioner Locke. And the next item on the public hearing agenda tonight is a design study. This is DS 21376, the Mardini project. This is consideration of a final design study and associated coastal development permit for a one-story addition totaling 333 square feet to a one-story 562 square foot cottage, and construction of a 230 square foot detached garage in the front yard setback. It's located on Ocean 4 northeast of Guadalupe Street. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair LePage. So this next item is a final design study and coastal development permit for additions to an existing cottage. So the project site is 2,500 square feet, so a pretty small lot. It has an existing 562 square foot single-story cottage on it. The applicant is proposing to demolish more than 50% of the exterior walls and construct a single-story addition on the rear of the cottage, as well as a detached garage that is partially in the front yard setback. One oak tree at the front of the cottage was approved for removal by the prior city forester, and one oak limb on a tree at the back of the property has been conditionally approved for removal by our current city forester, subject to Planning Commission approval of the project, as well as issuance of a building permit. So just by way of a little background, this cottage was built in 1946. It was one of 5 cottages that were built in this area. They all shared similar characteristics at that time. The property was reviewed for historical significance and determined to be ineligible in 2021. Our first concept review was in April of 2023. And that was a single-story addition with an attached garage. The Planning Commission did accept that design with conditions. However, the applicant decided to explore an alternative design, which was a 2-story design, you may recall. And so they went to the Forest and Beach Commission to request some limb removals associated with that design. The Forest and Beach Commission continued that application and said you really should go get evaluated by the Planning Commission first. So that was done in November, and the Planning Commission denied that 2-story design. So the applicant went back to the original single-story concept. The commission reviewed that design, but with a detached garage this time instead of attached. And so we looked at that on February 13th of this year, and the commission did accept that concept design with some conditions, which we're going to go through. So the first condition was that a volume study be completed. It was, and the project does comply with our volume standards. The second condition was required tree planting. So the city forester recommended one upper canopy tree on the site. The applicant has proposed one lower canopy tree in the public right-of-way. So staff has included special condition number 36, that an upper canopy tree be provided on site. We do want to allow for some flexibility for the applicant to be able to work with the city forester to select a tree in a location that's going to be appropriate for the site. So if our city forester determines that an upper canopy tree maybe is no longer appropriate, we want to build in some flexibility that they can plant a lower canopy tree. The next condition was that a tree permit was required for the proposed removal of limbs. So the applicant did work with our forestry department. Only one limb is proposed to be removed on that oak tree at the rear of the property. And as I mentioned on the tour, the city forester has given conditional approval for the removal of that limb, but it is contingent upon this project being approved. So the next condition, actually the next four I'm going to go through, had to do with the composite side yard setback. The applicant did make the necessary adjustments, so the setbacks do comply. The next condition was removal of the stone wall in the public right-of-way. As we saw today on the tour, the grade is a little bit steeper than what I had originally remembered. And so special condition 37 requires elimination of this wall. It's about 1 foot, so it's pretty small. However, you might want to consider striking that condition if you feel like that wall is going to be needed to hold the grade back there in the right-of-way. The next condition was that the driveway width not exceed 14 feet. The applicant has made that adjustment. And then there was a condition about safety for ingress and egress with the detached garage. And so to address that concern, the applicant is proposing a 7-foot front setback and a 6-foot side setback, which pushes the garage back and it maintains that existing access point off of Ocean Avenue. The next condition had to do with eaves. This is really a building code requirement, but because it does, it can affect the design of the home, we like to let applicants know early in the process that they might need to have much shorter eaves than what they are anticipating. So the applicant has responded, and it does appear that these eaves comply. They'll be looked at again by the building official at the building plan check stage. So the next condition had to do with the height of the rear addition. During the concept review, the east neighbor had expressed concerns about how visible the addition is from the windows, the south-facing windows of his residence. The applicant was asked to explore lowering that addition, which would require excavation of the backyard to bring the grade down basically to the level of the existing cottage. However, due to the proximity of the addition to existing significant oak trees, the applicant is concerned that excavation would impact the root structure of those trees. So the residential design guidelines talk about minimizing impacts on established trees, setting structures back a minimum of 6 feet. And then it acknowledges that it may be acceptable to build closer than 6 feet if other design objectives are met and a bridged footing is used. So we have successfully used either helical piers or bridged footings to build in proximity to significant trees without disturbing the root structure. So that is one possibility. The next guideline talks about avoiding extensive pruning. Again, the applicant is only asking to prune one limb, so staff doesn't feel that that is extensive. They are required to plant a replacement tree, so they do meet that next design guideline. And then minimizing the impact on trees and their root systems by planning, where excavation takes place. So there's a couple more. Residential Design Guideline 1.3 talks specifically about protecting root systems. So these are the two design guidelines that they have identified as to why they have not lowered the addition and proposed that additional excavation. So this is a graphic that shows the existing condition on the left. You can see that there has been some disturbing of the existing grade with that patio, the location of the proposed addition being slightly closer than 6 feet. So we definitely need to be mindful of the root structure of that tree. Staff has included a special condition to either provide a minimum of that 6-foot setback or design a foundation that will avoid any significant roots. So obviously at this time we don't know where the roots are and whether or not they are significant. So the applicant will need to do some root exploration to uncover that before they're able to really design a foundation that might work in that area. So this is final details, so we're going to talk a little bit about the exterior finishes. The commission has expressed concern about high contrast color schemes, so staff is identifying that this particular color scheme does appear to be high contrast with a white stucco body color and a dark bronze window and door. I do want to note, however, that on this particular project, it is a small site. It has 25 feet of frontage, and the detached garage would be located in front of the residence. So the commission might take that into consideration when looking at the color scheme and how visible it might be from the public way. Also, the applicant is proposing the garage door on the image on the left, which is like a horizontal wood in a gray color. With regards to exterior lights, the light fixtures themselves do comply with our standards. However, staff felt that the number of light fixtures might be a little excessive. So we have included a draft condition or a special condition that the number of light fixtures be reduced. So eliminating one on that west-facing side of the garage, and then only placing one light fixture at each double door instead of two. So again, the east neighbor to the north, which is the Boyd family, have expressed ongoing concerns about privacy, views, light, and air as a result of that elevated rear addition. As you saw on the tour today, the addition is in front of their primary living spaces, which include a living room, kitchen, and bedroom. They've also expressed concerns about the location of a small window at the stairs leading up to the addition. The commission could maybe consider a special condition that be opaque. That might mitigate that privacy concern. The neighbors also expressed concern about losing the views of the oak tree canopy, as well as the sunset views that they currently enjoy. And then they're concerned about the potential blockage of sunlight and the casting of shadows with the addition being elevated. So these are some photographs of what you saw today on the tour of that perspective from the Boyd family's residence of the addition. We also received some public comments from the east neighbor, Ms. Carlson. She was not able to be here. I'm not sure if she was available for Zoom, but she did provide a letter with her concerns. She's concerned that the limb removal requires a public hearing. However, the city forester felt that it was appropriate to conditionally approve it without a public hearing. And so tree permit 23-215 has been issued for that limb removal. Ms. Carlson is also concerned that the project does not meet the setbacks. I did double check the setbacks as they're represented on the plans. The project does appear to comply. The plans were based on a survey that was done in 2002, and I have no reason to believe that that survey is inaccurate. A separate survey was not done as part of this, this project. And then also concerns about the building eaves being in compliance, and again, those will be double checked again by the building official. She also still questions whether the lot is a legal building site. We did have this discussion at prior concept reviews. We consulted with the city attorney, and the conclusion was that it is a legal building site and the applicant could construct an addition. Also some concerns about the amount of demolition. So as you may recall, that east wall of the cottage is non-conforming because it doesn't maintain a 3-foot setback. So the applicant is aware, they're proposing to retain that wall, and they're aware if they take the wall down, then it needs to be shifted to meet the minimum setback. So with that, staff's recommendation is that you adopt a resolution approving the project. And we do have some special conditions for your consideration. Some of these are becoming kind of standard, the pre-construction meeting, no copper gutters and downspouts, as well as a construction management plan. We did include the tree planting requirement. Condition number 37 deals with that stone wall next to the driveway. You might consider striking that one if you feel that some retention of that grade is needed. Looking for some feedback on the exterior color scheme, if you're comfortable with the contrast, and the number of light fixtures. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions from the Commissioner for staff? Have a question?
Yeah, I do. So, Marnie, the question of excavation and the roots and the 6 feet rule. So I guess the first question is whether they go. They're proposing to build something back there that will require some level of excavation. It's just how much. And if they keep the current proposed height where it steps up, I understand there would be less excavation, but are we still within the 6-foot requirement even then? And then if that's the case, can we allow it subject to different forms of foundation if necessary?
Yes, so the code does allow you to approve a structure that is within 6 feet if a foundation can be designed to avoid any significant roots.
Which is typically done with bridging.
And we won't know if there's any significant roots until some root exploration is done.
Yeah, the way I understand your staff report is it's an either or. They either move it to the 6 foot or they do the exploration if they find roots and they come back with a design of the foundation that will bridge the roots.
Correct.
So, okay, is there any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you. All right, at this time I would like to invite the applicant to come forward and make their presentation.
Thank you very much, and good evening, I guess, at this point. My name is Thomas Trapani, and I am the attorney for Ms. Mardani, the applicant. We want to thank the commission and the staff, and especially Marnie, for all of the hard work that has been invested in this process. And there's been a lot of hard work, as you can tell from everything that's been presented. Before purchasing this property, Ms. Mardani made inquiries and spent money for a historical review to investigate whether she could put a two-story addition on the back of this property. And she was told that because there was no historical impediments, there would be no problem with a two-story. Obviously, it was only after she purchased the property and submitted the plans for her two-story addition that all these problems emerged and her plans were rejected. Everyone has worked very hard since that time in order to come up with a proposal that has been presented to you for your approval. And a lot of compromises have been made. There was a lawsuit filed with regard to access of ingress and egress. That lawsuit was dismissed, and that issue has been fully resolved at this point, where there's no problem with the ingress and egress issues. And you've talked about the foundation issue and what needs to be done with regard to the tree in the back. And Ms. Mardani will work with that process to reach the resolution that's necessary in order to be able to make that addition of the one story in the back of the property. She will also continue to work with the forester. She has worked with the forester with regard to the tree issues, and will continue to cooperate with them in all of that, in all of their suggestions, and work with the city in terms of the land that is in front. One of the things that came up with the ingress and egress is that a lot of it was talked about Ms. Mardani's issue, but when we had really looked at it very hard, really most of that access is city land. It's not Ms. Mardani's property. So that the access over that and the condition in the front and the issues with the forester really have to do more with the city in some respects than it has to do with Ms. Mardani. And that's deceptive when you look at the property, because you don't realize how far back her property starts. And all of that land in the front is city land. And the city's got to be somewhat responsible for some of those access issues and the slope. And actually, the wall that is talked about, the 2-foot wall coming down, is really most of it's on city land and city property. And so, anyway, she will cooperate in all of these regards, and she appreciates all the time and effort, and particularly Marnie's very thorough presentation. And unless you have any questions for me, we'd ask you to approve the project.
Are there any questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite members of the public to come forward and make their comments. Please come forward.
Good evening. Mark Boyd. My family owns the property, the northeast neighbor. I will agree with the previous speaker. Marnie did an excellent job with the presentation, and it's just been wonderful to work with throughout this process, and really appreciate it. Let me start with my comments I kind of wrote down here. We have a property, as you know, on 6th Avenue 2 Southwest of Carpenter. And, this house was something my mom purchased back in, February 2022. And so we've been dealing with this project the entire time, 2 years, 10 projects. And you wonder why I'm being so adamant about protecting our property. And I know it's considered a rental, but it's not a rental. This is in Carmel. This is the city. This is my dream house. This is a city I love. Would love to be a member of this community, and that's the intention here. It's not just a rental. Our family business goes back 100 years in renting properties in San Jose, and this is the pride of our, other than our 102-year-old building in downtown. But I just want you to know that this is not just a rental. 4 months ago, the concept hearing, the commissioners passed a resolution unanimously, and one of the conditions was, and emphasized by members of the commission, was that they wanted a feasibility study, whether it's feasible to excavate and lower the roof line, and no study was done. I mean, it's baffling. Why a study, a simple request? Because they can use an air spade, which would help them analyze the roots. It's got compressed air, and it blows away the dirt. You get to see the roots, and it would have been an excellent tool that they could have presented here, the results of that, but nothing. It wasn't done. There's no analysis here. The staff, and Marnie mentioned, they could be using bridge footings as a way to alleviate the impact to the roots, or helical piers could have been used, and neither was used. Neither was mentioned. It was just like this was just totally ignored by the applicant, and and we're being asked to give up significant impacts to our privacy. And you saw it, views, air, light, without the applicant performing a simple analysis whether it's feasible to lower the rear addition. And it's just baffling. They were asked to determine whether they could level the proposed addition, whether excavation is feasible, and they refused to do so. And it's let's see, one more comment.
Sir, can you summarize?
Yeah,
Your 3 minutes are up.
One thing I've learned over the past 2 years and 10 proposals is that this commission takes their responsibilities very seriously. They do their homework. They're prepared to make good decisions and make good comments. And I just think that this is just unacceptable to. I mean, it just doesn't seem that this would be something you would think would gain your approval when the study that you requested, that you emphasized back in February, 4 months ago, was not even considered. And so.
Sir, we understand your concern.
Okay. So as a
all right, we understand your concern. You're concerned with the height in your view.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Are there any other members from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission? Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Carrie White. I don't even know where this property is located, but there's a couple objective things I'd like to comment. Monteverde, there's an ADU on the corner that is way closer than 6 feet from the property line, and it is an abomination that happened. So what I'm hearing is that there's a structure too tall. I don't think we can protect people's views. However, protecting people's properties should come, in my opinion, before trees. I'm sorry. If this thing is too tall, it's really hard to tell from this picture how tall this building is in relationship to the property, but it should be congruent. Anybody who builds an ADU or an addition, it should be congruent. That should be number one standard. Height, location is key, and color. I think there's no place in Carmel for stark white, unless it's like the Cypress Inn or something where it's Moroccan and it fits in. I think stark white is not complementary to our town. So those are my only comments.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other comments from the public? I don't see anybody coming forward. Leah, any hands online?
Yes, there's two. Joe Todd, please unmute yourself.
Okay. I can't see their names. Oh, Joe Todd, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe Todd. You have the floor.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Joe Todd.
Is it unmuted now?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I do not want to speak on this one. I had my hand raised for the escargot. So, and some glitch is making this happen. I don't know. I'm on my phone. But I wanted to comment that as a resident in favor of escargot. So sorry that it happened this way, but I don't have a comment on this one.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the other is Catherine Carlson. Carlson, we got there? Yeah, Carlson. Catherine, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Chair LePage and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Catherine Carlson. I'm the owner of the house on the corner of Ocean and Carpenter, adjacent to the applicant's property on the east side. My family has owned this house for 45 years. I'm speaking up today because I've followed this case in detail, and I believe that the Planning and Building Department is willing to ignore careful review and analysis, and even to bend the rules in order to approve a project that clearly does not meet city standards. This is the fourth time the Planning Commission has reviewed the project, and it still does not comply with the Carmel Municipal Code and/or State of California requirements. I can name 9 ways in which it doesn't, and I'm sorry, I'll have to speak quickly. In its conditional approval, the Planning Commission required the applicant to increase the side yard setbacks at the front addition to achieve the minimum required composite setback of 7 feet. Has this been done? No. The front addition remains unchanged at 63 square feet. She had some numbers on the plans, but those numbers don't add up. If the addition is 63 square feet, she did not change anything. The Planning Commission is also requiring the eaves within 2 feet of the property line to be no more than 4 inches deep. Is this the case? No. So, maybe it will be, but today on the plan, it's not. Number 3, while it seems that a conditional permit has been granted by the city forester for the applicant to cut 1 branch of a significant oak tree on her neighbor's property, do I believe she will stop there? Based on her past behavior, no. This tree is in the way, and I'd like to go on record to say that if this project is built, I believe the tree will end up dead. Number 4, city staff is recommending that the project be found categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act on the basis that the addition will not add more than 50% to the existing floor area. The existing floor area is currently 562 square feet, and the proposed floor area is 1,125 square feet. That's more than a 100% increase. The applicant seems to have added a 200 square foot parking pad recently, nothing more than a pile of gravel. It's not a structure. The parking pad did not appear in the set of plans considered by the Planning Commission on April 12, 2023, because it did not exist at that time. It's not on the existing site plan today either. Surely the city is not counting this as part of the existing structure, because that would not be correct. So is the project categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act? No. Has the property been surveyed by a licensed land surveyor? No. Can we be sure that the lot is not less than 2,500 square feet? No. The city argues that the lot was 2,500 square feet in 1888, but the fact is that the applicant's neighbor did have a survey done, and as a result moved his property line over by as much as a foot. The lack of a survey also caused the city not to realize that the house is sitting in the setback. Things change over time, and I believe it's highly likely that this lot is less than 2,500 square feet, and its size in 1888 is irrelevant. Why has the city not required a valid land survey? Is this lot a legal building site? No. The city argues that it was a legal building site in 1888 and has devoted half a page to substantiate this. They contend that the wording of the CMC is irrelevant in this case, but I contend that their interpretation of what they think the code was intended to mean is irrelevant. What is relevant is what the code actually says. The lot is not a legal building site because it was owned by the same person as the adjoining lot on February 4th, 1948. This is what the code says. The 34-foot non-conforming wall located in the setback along my property line will be more than 50% demolished. Old windows and doors will be removed, and new windows and doors will be added in different places on the wall. Increased fire protection will also have to be added, so more than 50% demolition requires that the wall be rebuilt up to current code.
Catherine, can you summarize? Your time is up.
Yes. There are too many outstanding issues and inconsistencies for this project to be approved. Should I be the only one who cares? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I don't see any other hands up online. I'm going to allow the applicant to have some time for rebuttal if they'd like that.
Thank you. Many of Ms. Carlson's comments are opinions, and without any support whatsoever. They're opinions and they're suppositions, and a lot of work has been done by the staff, and they, as far as it being a building lot and a legal building lot, it's already been approved as a legal building lot. It's already been surveyed and investigated as such, and so many of these have already been dealt with by the commission in all of its prior rulings in this situation. And to bring up these things now is too late in the game and not appropriate. There's every reason to move forward with this development of this property, given all the compromises that have been made by Ms. Mardani and all the experts that have been involved, and the forester and Marnie and the staff and everything else. And so we think that it is appropriate that you approve this project and that it be allowed to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to make one more invitation to public comments. Anybody that hasn't spoken so far may do so at this time. Okay, I don't see anybody in the chamber coming forward. I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Locke, would you like to begin, or?
Sure.
Okay.
I'd be happy to. I do have, oops, where did my staff person go? Marnie.
She's still here. She's just.
Yeah. Question for Marnie. What did the condition say that we added in there about reducing the height of the back area and doing a review of the root zones?
Okay, so the condition read that the applicant shall provide additional information regarding the floor level and height of the proposed addition in the back, whether excavation to lower the addition is feasible.
And we did not get a response on that, other than just to say it is not feasible without having any type of a review study or.
My understanding is that they went back and looked at the design guidelines and cited some inconsistencies with excavation with the design guidelines. I don't believe any exploratory work was done to see if there are any roots in that area.
So it seems to me that that was a condition of our action that we took in February, and that was not followed through on. So, okay, so beyond all that, which I do have a problem with, I think when a condition is placed on our consideration, that you need to follow through and provide us with the information that we need to be able to make a decision on the project. As far as other comments with this project, I don't like the white, and I think that regardless of the fact that it is set back from the road and not necessarily something that's in people's faces, I still think that the contrast we need to reduce contrast. We need to get more natural colors out there. I am concerned about the privacy impacts to the neighbor to the east, and in particular with the window that's proposed on the east side, which appears to look very much into the rooms, bedroom in particular. I would want to see that changed and or removed, because I really do think it's glaring right into his space. Whether that would be putting in a clear story or window possibility, maybe, where you'd have more privacy, but I think that is definitely a concern. And as far as the retaining wall goes, I don't have a problem with removal and replacement of that. I mean, it's on a hill, and I think it probably is appropriate that there's some kind of a retaining wall there. But I do definitely have concerns about the route exploration and whether or not it's possible to lower the addition, because it definitely will be a step up, significant step up, and it does have impacts. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Karapetkoff, your comments, please.
Yes. My primary concern, based on the previous discussion, was the safety driving into the driveway, and I think that's the primary concern. And it has been addressed. I understand that the garage is now moved backwards, the fence is moved to the back. There is a way to drive into the driveway for the owners of the other cottages. So I'm glad to see that this problem has been resolved, because that was the main issue. About the 1-foot driveway wall, I guess this is something that staff can look into, if we need to keep it or not. Maybe it doesn't need to be a wall, maybe it needs to be some kind of boulders or stones that can hold the swell. But that is something that is relatively minor in comparison to the safety issue we had before. In the back, I remember we had a discussion about different options for this addition. And if I remember correctly, the applicant was interested in having same level, basically not having a step up, but like same level. They don't want to have any stairs, etc. The reason they went to stairs, in my understanding, is because there were concerns about tree structure, etc. That's why they got this 3 steps and 2.5 feet difference. And the window, I assume, was placed there because they want to have some light and see the steps so nobody gets, hurt while using the steps at night or also during the day. So I think we have to make a decision here. I mean, there's no perfect solution. The lot is small. At least we kind of got an assurance that it's a valid building site, so it is something that can be built on. But we have to make a decision here. If we're now in the 5th iteration of this project, and it's clear that there has to be a compromise. We cannot have everything. The site is too small to meet everybody's requirements. I see that the applicant has made every effort to accommodate, all the requests coming in. It's a very modest house. They made a lot of compromises here. I see even the kitchen is kind of strange configuration to accommodate the requirements. The bedrooms are very small. The bathrooms are very small. Everything is small in that house. So it is really an attempt to solve the problem of having 2 bedrooms on a very small lot. In terms of impact to privacy and views for neighbors, we went to the house of Mr. Boyd earlier today. There is definitely some impact on views, but I would say, they still get partial view of trees and sky, so it's not completely blocked. And I don't think that there's a scenario in which the view will be completely unobstructed. So there's no way. Even if the house goes down 2.5 feet, there'll still be obstruction. So do we want to go for another round of discussions and go measure trees and roots and end up with a recommendation to make the addition 2.5 feet deeper? Or should we stay with the current proposal? I'm just concerned that we are going in this circle and it doesn't seem to have any end. And I would love to see that resolved tonight if possible, because we have been to that site many, many, many times, and it is not productive. It's not getting better. So I would love to see some resolution here. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dels.
Thank you. First, let me go off script. That ADU at the corner of 13th and Monteverde is an abomination. This body, I always feel we need to protect the integrity of this body, that we have nothing to do with that. ADU, the local control over ADUs has been removed by your state government, our state government. And they've basically said, we don't get to play. And on top of it, they changed the rules about setbacks and about design review and really everything. And so that's what we end up with. We've had worse example. I thought we've had achieved the worst possible example, but that one is pretty bad. It's ugly. On this topic, I agree with my colleague that we really need to get done on this one today. So let me start with the easy pieces. Let me acknowledge that despite perhaps the tone of the dialogue between the neighbors, we've had dialogue between the neighbors, and we have had give and take, and that's how this has to work. This particular site is so compromised, it's so small, and it's not just the one house. Everything in there is a piece of a jigsaw puzzle that has existed for a long time, and to make improvements to those very old, very small cottages is a challenge. And we spend a lot of our time just looking at orange netting and trying to figure out how big something is and who's impacted, and how much solar access you're losing, and how much of a view you're losing. And that's all it's more acute in this particular situation. It's no longer 2 stories tall, and when we first looked at it, that was way too much for what we saw from the neighbors. We've had concerns from the beginning about the safety at the front for vehicle access. You're pulling onto a very busy street onto Ocean Avenue, and I do believe the current plan has really maximized the safety impact and continued to allow for the peculiar egress and ingress for the other 2 homes that are in there as part of that common shared driveway. I think that a retaining wall needs to go because of safety. I think it pinches the garage, or pinches the driveway too much, and especially where the garage is now located, and I believe where the garage is now located is a better location. Being further back, that's actually a big deal from a safety standpoint, but I think we have to focus first and foremost on the safety of the driveway, and then let retainage and landscaping follow. And so I think that's very important. I think we all saw that out there today. It comes down to how tall is that building in the back. I said 3 months ago I thought it needed to be lower, and that the step up is 2.5 feet. 2.5 feet. 2.5. Yeah, that's a lot, and that's a lot on the neighbor. I think it needs to be 2.5 feet lower, and that's on the applicant. That there are techniques to do this, and what I hear you coming back with is, I think, not wanting to look into it because of the uncertainty of cost and schedule. That's on you, and I think your neighbor has said that he's not saying no. He's saying lower. So that's where I'm at. I don't know if I'm missing any of the other topics, but to me, that's the single most important outstanding item.
I'm going to make a suggestion, which I think is an easy solution to this problem. Just make it a hip roof. Just eliminate the gables. The problem with this that I hear is the impacts of that roof design. It's the roof. So just cut the 2 gables off, make it a hip, and you've opened up more view to the neighbor to the east on both ends. The neighbor to the east does not own the view. You do not own the view. That needs to be understood. Yes, you have impacts, and we try to mitigate those impacts. And the way to mitigate the impacts here is just go to a hip roof design. It's no big deal. Right now, it's just a drawing on paper. Just change that. Put obscured glass on the window. It's a done deal. You fix the garage. It's safe in the front. That's the motion I'm making. I'm adding a special condition to the motion that you change the roof design to a full hip roof. You put obscure glass in the window. I don't see any other issues unless my fellow commissioners want an additional item in the special condition.
That's why you're the chairman.
No, so I'm just making a motion
Good job.
and see if I can get a second.
I second.
That's my motion. Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Is there any more discussion? No? Roll call,
One
please.
question before roll call.
Oh, go
Did you
ahead,
want
yeah.
to revisit condition 37 about the wall?
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Condition number 37, how does it read? Pro stone wall be eliminated. Well, I think the applicant needs to work with staff to, once a grade is established there, to make a safe entry into the garage. If some type of a retaining wall is required, they can work with staff to do that. If it involves an encroachment permit, that's something that the council grants. We don't. Is that correct?
So the way that I drafted the condition was removal of the wall. The applicant is actually proposing to build one, so it might be appropriate just to strike.
Okay, well, then I will modify condition 37 that the applicant shall work with staff to provide a retaining wall which provides for a safe entrance into the garage as cited. Is that good enough?
Thank you.
Okay.
I still second.
Still seconded? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karapetkov?
Yes, yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, motion is carried. Thank you, everyone.
Could I ask for clarification so I understand?
Do you need clarification?
Yes.
Come up to the mic, please.
Thank you. You've mentioned two different things and then passed a resolution about changing the roof. And I just want to make sure that, is it in the alternative where she needs to find 2 feet, is what you've said, basically?
Pardon?
So if she needs to find 2 feet, is what I'm understanding you to say.
No, what the motion says, you're just going to change it to a hip roof.
To a hip roof.
Right now, it's a gable on both ends, so now it's going to be a full hip on. It's going to be hip roof on all 4 sides.
Okay, and that's what's passed.
That's what passed.
Okay.
So there's no lowering involved. It's just
No lowering.
just eliminating volume of the roof by providing a hip.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're going to close that item out. All right. Next item on the public hearings is item number 5. This is a design study. It's DS23-124. This is the Rick and You project. Is consideration of a revised concept design study for demolition of an existing 1,028 square foot 2-story single family residence and the construction of a new 1,628 square foot 2-story single family residence and a 51 square foot attached garage on Santa Fe Street, 4 southeast of 2nd Avenue. We have staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair LePage. So just a brief project description. This is a standard 4,000 square foot lot. It does contain an existing 2-story cottage, which is set back towards the rear of the lot. The applicant is proposing a full demolition and construction of a new 2-story residence with an attached garage. There were 3 pine trees that were the subject of discussion at the last concept hearing for the canopy that they provided and a view from the north neighbors' living spaces. However, in having the city forester go out and take a look at the trees, he actually determined that all 3 were hazardous and that they needed to be promptly removed. So that has been approved. So that has been approved by the city forester, which is not related to development at all, just the fact that they were in a hazardous condition. So this is the location of those 3 trees that we discussed at the last meeting. So the existing cottage was built around 1925. It is not eligible for the historic inventory. That determination was made in 2022. The first concept review was held on February 14th, and it was continued with direction. And so the applicant is back before you this afternoon with a revised concept. So the concept review direction that was given to the applicant was to mitigate significant impacts to the north neighbor. So the applicant was directed to redesign the project. The commission noted that the building footprint was too close to the north property line, that there was a very minimal side yard setback, placing the front entry and the porch very close to the north neighbor's living room and bedroom windows. And the commission also communicated that the square footage at the front of the lot was at the expense of the neighbor's south-facing views, and requested that the building be shifted back. So this is just an elevation of the north neighbor's home, just to orient us to those windows. The one to the far left is in the living room. The window that pops out is the bedroom. So this site plan compares the building footprint of the original concept design, which is outlined in red, and the new proposal, which is shaded in gray. So the north side yard setback has been increased by 3 feet. So it was 5 feet 6 inches. It's now 8 feet 6 inches. The residence was also shifted 1 foot towards the rear. And so you can see that that slight adjustment there. The applicant also changed the front entry door from being a glass door with a side light to a solid door in an effort to mitigate some privacy concerns, and then also reduce the height of the door from 9 feet to 8 feet. So this is a comparison of the original concept. This is looking at the north elevation. So from the north neighbor's perspective, the red dash shows the shift in the project. And then also wanted to identify for the commission, this is the applicant's street view, and this is something that we do require for all of our Track 2 design study applications. So this shows the north neighbor on the left, and then the cottage that's to the south of the project site, which is in the middle. The applicant estimates that the north neighbor's finished floor is at an elevation of 1010, where the project's main level finished floor is at 1005. So just under a 5 foot differential, which sets the project site kind of below the finished floor level of the neighbor's house. And so that kind of becomes important when we talk about line of sight and views from the porch. So this is not a highly sophisticated line of sight diagram, but simply my attempt to kind of show the view angles from the front porch. The north neighbor does have concerns that people entering and exiting the home will have direct views both into his living room as well as the bedroom. So this is just to give a little bit of perspective. Additionally, the applicant has prepared some graphics which were not included in your packet, and the north neighbor did not have the benefit of seeing these prior to the meeting. But this shows a views from standing on the porch with a proposed privacy hedge. So you can see the line of sight from this perspective. This is walking up the steps to the front door. So as we kind of talked about at the tour today, originally the intent was to keep the existing grade and just have a gently sloping walkway up to the front door. The applicant has actually lowered that and introduced stairs up to the front porch. And so this is that perspective as you approach the stairs and the privacy hedge. So the next comment or feedback that the commission gave at the last concept review was regarding the driveway ramp and retaining walls. And I hope I captured this correctly. I did go back and listen to the meeting. The what I heard was that the sunken driveway creates a two-story appearance from Santa Fe, and it also creates a ramp effect. And so the applicant did lower the height of that wall down to 5 feet 3 inches at the highest point. That's what's included in your packet. He's done some additional work to even lower that wall further, which is what you see on the right-hand side, down to 3 feet 10. So making a concerted effort to respond to that tunnel effect comment in reducing the height of the wall. So I compared the top of wall elevation from the first concept review to this latest iteration, and you can see that it has come down quite a bit. The third comment that the commission gave was about the human scale of windows and doors, there being too much glass, and the glass not being broken up. The applicant did go through and update the entire window and door schedule. And so I'm going to show you a couple comparisons of the elevations just so you can see how the height of the windows have been reduced, and the additions, the divisions in the glass have been introduced. So this is obviously the front elevation, and then this the south-facing elevation. You can see how the glass has been reduced. And then this is the north elevation. And here you can also see that solid front door and the elimination of that glass side light. Another concern that the north neighbor had raised were impacts of the project casting shadows on their south elevation, as well as potentially blocking their roof line for a future solar installation. So the applicant did prepare this video. I'm going to try to play this for you. If I knew how to make it full screen, I would do it, but I don't.
Can you click on that lower right, enlarge it? There you go.
Okay. Let me start that over for you. Maybe. Okay, so hopefully you can see the animation of the shadows.
What day is this?
I believe it started in December.
Yeah, started December.
And now we're going to September. That is the video. So with that, staff is recommending that the commission adopt a resolution accepting the revised concept design study. The original concept acceptance conditions include the volume study, required tree plantings, protecting that 6-foot zone from structures. I did include a condition to further reduce the retaining wall from the 5 feet down to 4. The applicant has gotten it down to under 3. And then just a minor setback on the light well that needs some further evaluation. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Questions for staff from the commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question.
Commissioner Locke?
Did you happen to compare the size of the windows that were on the original proposal with the ones that are proposed in this one?
I did. I did look at that, and it looked generally like a 1-foot reduction.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the doors were 8-foot doors to begin with?
They were 9,
9-foot
and they're
doors.
down to 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
One question. I think last time we discussed the project, Commissioner Locke mentioned something about not sufficient water credits for the project. Was that resolved?
It was, yes. They have eliminated a bathroom.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'd like to invite the applicant to come forward and make their presentation.
Thank you again for having us. It's nice to see you, Marnie. Everybody's been doing a lot of work. We heard the direction from the commission last meeting back in February. Adam put a lot of thoughtful changes into the current design, and we are so looking forward to becoming a member of the community full-time down here. Another change that wasn't in there is I did actually retire in April, so I really would like to come down here and participate in the community. My wife and I are excited to be part of the process, and we look forward to an equitable review. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission, staff. I'm Adam Jesselnick, architect for the project. I think Marnie has a couple of slides that we can pull up. But thank you, Marnie, for the very thorough staff report and all your work in reviewing this project and getting it ready to bring back before you for hearing today.
I'm sorry, I'm going to need just a minute.
Okay.
Adobe's a little temperamental. My apologies.
And I can adjust her. So Marnie did a great job of addressing the really high-level concerns that were brought to us at the last meeting. Here's just a quick summary of the timeline. The application submitted in May of last year, the concept design reviewed by you in February, resubmitted in April. Marnie mentioned the tree removal, which was coordinated closely with the city forester, and then back in front of you tonight. So just an initial site diagram. We looked at this last time, but sort of illustrating what some of the, some of the root cause of some of the comments from the neighbor and the discussion at the commission. You know, the existing house is a smaller footprint tucked here at the back of the lot. There are some views to the southwest that we believe are shared views, potentially through the vegetation, but at least to the open, afternoon light and the ability to see maybe a little glimpse of Point Lobos in the distance. So those are the existing site conditions. This is the diagram that we had prepared for our own review and in talking with Marnie about the analysis of the windows of the proposed house and the windows of the neighbor's house. And you can see here that the shift to the house location on the site allowed us to create, a nice offset between the door opening, the stair opening, and this window opening back here, which is the dining room, which are offset from the neighbor's window openings that currently exist. This is another view of the front elevation, sort of a high-level view. So this is, much higher than you would see from the street. But again, this gets into sort of the initial concern of the north neighbor and the one that's been brought before you today, which is of privacy impacts. And we do share those concerns. I think they're equally important for, for Mr. Rican as my client, as for the neighbor. And we did bring forth, some suggestions and things, points of conversation. Both the height of the fence, which you can see here. This is a 4-foot fence, which would jump up to 6 feet. We're open to a higher fence, although that is something that Planning Commission would need to consider and approve, anything higher than 6 feet. We've shown some landscape screening here as an idea, but again, this is something that can be worked out in final details in terms of what this composition of landscape screening is. But I think that certainly Mr. Rican and his wife are open to this. In terms of the retaining walls, this was another point that we worked closely with Marnie on, and we have demonstrated that it's possible to bring the height of those walls down to less than 4 feet. That's visible in this section view. Here's another sort of street level. This is more from eye level view of the street looking back towards the proposed project. And again, we believe that the house and the garage elevation a couple feet below the street level is consistent with the design guidelines that are proposed for this sort of tuck under garage configuration. And this shows the new window configuration as well. So again, just sort of a comparison view, the elevations that we looked at last time versus the elevations this time. We have taken care to look at each opening and come back with a proposal that I feel is more consistent with the design guidelines and responds to the commission concerns. And another side-by-side view of the front elevation as well. So with that, I conclude my presentation and happy to answer any questions from the commissioners.
Questions for Adam from the commission? No? Okay, thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite members of the public to come forward and speak to the commission.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Randy Turley, and I'm the neighbor to the north. Thank you for dropping by today and looking inside from my house, the views of the proposed project. A picture is worth 1,000 words. In my view, the problems of views and privacy have only been marginally improved with this new design. It is ultimately up to you as commissioners to decide where that balance rests, but please consider the fact that I am gaining nothing from this project and losing a significant degree of views and privacy. I want to again summarize my current concerns, and they start with privacy and line of sight issues. The views and the privacy issues are intermixed for this project, and solving one can negatively affect the other. For example, solving the privacy line of sight issues by installing a privacy barrier will result in additional obstructions of my views. I can't imagine having a privacy barrier that's 2 feet away from my windows right now that goes up 7 feet, 6 feet, and goes 20 feet along my wall. Right now I've got all these wonderful views, and now I'm going to start looking at a bamboo barrier. I now have from the bedroom and the living room are essentially no privacy issues and no one being able to look into these rooms. The project's balcony and entryway is now closer to the bedroom than the living room, and moving the house to the back even makes this balcony closer to the bedroom. The balcony used to be adjacent to the living room, and as one commissioner at the last meeting commented, was in your face. Now the balcony is adjacent to the bedroom, and the balcony is now in your face from the bedroom. In the applicant's response regarding privacy views, light and air, the applicant states, and I quote, "In response to the north neighbor's comments regarding a potential line of sight from the porch to the secondary bedroom, an exhibit has been prepared showing how the combination of privacy fence and landscape screening can mitigate this concern completely." Well, like I said, it will mitigate the concern of them being able to look into the room, But what am I going to be looking at now? I'm going to be looking at a bamboo barrier 2 feet away from my windows, living room and bedroom. Totally unacceptable from my point of view. He also goes to state that my house is 4.5 feet higher. Okay, that's fine, I'll concede that fact, but what that does is that means the line of sight now is still directly into the bottom of my window. Instead of being up above it looking down, it's now just directly at the side of the window where the parallel, perpendicular, or level with the window. And is there really any difference between looking up into a bedroom or looking down into a bedroom or looking straight into a bedroom? I don't think so. I was out there today and I saw exactly where that new floor was going to be. And it's just looking straight into my room. I have to, excuse me. All I'm asking is that to protect our privacy in my house is to maintain our views as much as possible. And I was thinking about this and I said, what are views? Well, what is the definition of view? Of course, this is totally subjective, and you as commissioners will have to have the final say-so, but I would define a view as all of the following. You've got skylines, you've got treetops, you've got distance, trees, and forests. These are obvious. I now have a distant neighbor's house, which is 50 feet away. That's totally acceptable to me. That's a nice view. That's the Rikens' other property that they own. I now have distant views of the landscaping, which is 50 feet away, which is acceptable to me. I have my neighbor's driveways, which I can see, which are acceptable. And I have my neighbor's front yards and my neighbor's landscaping. My current views consist of all of these. What is not a view is my neighbor's house 8 feet away or landscaping privacy barrier 2 feet away. These views from my bedroom have not really changed by the modification. In the living room, only 2 of the windows have improved. In the living room, only 1 of the 2 windows has improved, with the left window being still obstructed. I put a chart together. I went into each room today, and I tried to define how much of the views. There's four windows of concern here, the 2 in the bedroom, the 2 in the living room. So I stood 3 feet away. Right now I have 100% view from all 4 of those. Without a construction, without a new project, I gotta have 100% view. And so with the construction, I have a 10% view in the bedroom middle window. I have a 50% view from the bedroom right window. I have a 20% view from the living room left window and a 10% view from the living room right window.
Sir, can you summarize your 3 minutes are up?
Yeah, okay. I would just, please consider the fact that I'm gaining nothing from this project and giving up views and privacy. Please consider that there might be an alternative design solution that reduces my impacts, and maybe they could just make their deck smaller, push the house back. If they could push that house back 15 feet, I'd be totally happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, is there anyone else in the chamber like to speak to this? Carol, come forward.
Chair LePage, commissioners, and staff, Carol Hall. As you know, I'm all about aesthetics, and I looked at this design, and I'm thankful for what has already occurred in terms of the improvements and the changes that appear to be happening. But there are 3 things that I'd like to respectfully suggest to the owners and to you to think about that would make this more into a charming Carmel cottage than, and they're pretty simple, than more of an office look to the house. And the first is, I believe it has a standing seam roof, which I think is great in Tahoe, but not here. And I would hope that they could put in something like a composition or shingle or something like that. Secondly, it's the what I call electrocution wires that go across the balcony railing, be replaced with wood vertical railing, which might help with some privacy issues as well. And the third is that the stone facade not be a severe cut, but a more cobbled look. And that would really change it into a more cozy, charming looking home than what we presently have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, anyone else from the public like to make some comments regarding this application? Anybody online?
Yes, Joe Todd, you can unmute yourself, please.
Okay, Joe Todd. Joe, you need to unmute yourself. I believe it's in the bottom left-hand corner there of your screen. Seems to be some technical difficulties there. Joe, I'm going to come back to you once you work on that. See if you can get that. I'll come back and make sure we get your comments. I'm going to give some time, rebuttal time, to Adam. He was giving me that look like he wanted some.
I'll keep my comments really brief. Just in response to Carol Hall's notes, we are eager for feedback from the commission on the materials. The roof has been proposed as slate, not a metal roof. And again, open to feedback. We believe that we've proposed something that's consistent with the design guidelines and natural materials that work for this style of house, but welcome the feedback at this stage. I guess my only comment in response to the neighbor, it just really has to do with the balance and sharing of views. I think it's fair to see for everybody who's visited the site that there's an existing house on the property which is underdeveloped in terms of what's possible, what you might expect of a new house. And in order to design a house mostly on one level on that lot, it's going to occupy more physical site area. So we've done the work that we thought we were asked to do in terms of mitigating those concerns to the degree possible, and we do believe that there are mitigation measures, window shades, fencing, landscaping, all of which would be happy to consider and discuss to provide privacy to both parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Joe, if you would still like to make comments, I see you took your hand down. Maybe you can unmute yourself and just let me know if you don't want to talk or you do want to talk. Okay, I guess she doesn't want to talk. All right. Are there anybody else in the wants to make any comments regarding this that hasn't already spoken? I don't think we have a lot of people left that haven't already spoken, so I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Karapetkoff, would you like to lead off?
Yeah, I'm glad to see that the windows and doors have been revisited and the height is now lower and they're also divided. That looks much better than the original proposal. We already discussed the issue with the water credits. I'm glad that's resolved. The sunlight animation that was played earlier kind of helped understand what's happening in terms of light distribution. So I think it's fair. The light distribution shouldn't be a problem. Obviously, the views are still a problem according to the presentation of the north neighbor. I also looked at the materials based on Carol's comments, and I think the roofing material that is listed here is pretty good. I'm not sure exactly what are the seamed.
Adam said they're proposing a slate roof.
Oh,
slate roof. Yeah,
so
it's not a metal standing seam roof. It's a slate roof.
This is a slate roof, right?
And on this set of plans.
I think it looks pretty good. Yeah. So what can we do with the current proposal? I think the fundamental issue is that the entrance of the house is on the north side, and unless this entrance is moved to a different location, the north neighbor will never be happy. It doesn't matter if the entrance is closer to the living room or closer to the bedroom. Any entrance on the north side seems to be a problem. So unless there's a way to move the entrance to the south side of the house, I'm not sure if we will be able to find a solution that satisfies the north neighbor. Having said that, I think it's unfair to expect that we redesign the entire house, move it all the way to the back so that the front of the lot is not being used at all. So we have to figure out a compromise again that satisfies everybody. I understand Adam's argument that the site is underused. That's true. The house from 1925 is very small. Now we're looking at a much bigger house, and we cannot prevent the owner from developing this site. So the only question is, and maybe that's a question I would like to ask Adam, if he explored any alternative entries from the south side, because that would be the ultimate decision of the problem or solution of the problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Commissioner Dels?
Sorry. So, the big issue is, continues to be for me, the privacy and views for the north neighbor. Clearly, we had an improvement with this iteration, and I think we have to decide whether it's enough of an improvement. I do think the loss of the current view is significant, and the neighbor gave his estimates of the percentage, and I didn't play that game when I was there today, but it has improved in the front room because we've pushed further back. The bedroom is unchanged, pretty much, in my opinion. But then again, is that one as important as the front room? I do think that front room view is probably the most important. It's the front of the house. It's where you have the most western light, most southern light coming in. I appreciate the shade, sun thing that helped a lot to show what the impact is, and it's not a significant loss of solar at all. So that I don't think that's part of it. As Stefan said, the whole configuration of the front door is proving problematic to the neighbor, and it continues as I'm looking at the plans. That still seems to continue to push the northwest corner of the home to be the furthest point west, and that's and the northwest corner of your house, to the extent it could be the furthest east, would actually mitigate the problem, if I'm being clear. So the only other thing is, we very often we're very often dealing with privacy, view, et cetera, impacts when a second story is proposed. And in this case, I don't know that would be true, but if you had a second story at the back, the whole thing could move back. And I'm not sure your neighbor's going to complain about a second story.
I will not.
Just saying. To Carol's ideas, I think I'm glad, the roof, great. Love a slate roof. That's a huge improvement. And the idea of the cobblestone, it's interesting. And I think you might want to consider it. I think she's right. It gives it a little bit less perfect look. And that's kind of what a lot of things in Carmel, especially some of the older ones, have, that slight imperfection, which gives them just that much more charm. And as to the electrical wires on the patio, I'm not going to force that, but I actually agree with her. I think that's a look that may look dated in 10 years, and that if you use more natural elements there, I would encourage you to consider it and see what you think about it. That's it, Michael.
That's it? Okay. Commissioner Locke. I was waiting for more.
No, I actually agree very much with both the comments of my other commissioners. And I do appreciate that there has been some improvement. However, I recall that we said this needs to be redesigned, and there's really no redesign on this. It's the same project, it's just moved a little bit. And I think everything that's been said about the entry, and this was said during the first round, that the fact that it's on that northwest side is right in the neighbor's face. And it's still right in the neighbor's face, and in fact, it's probably even worse because anybody who's on that front entry is going to be disturbing whoever's in the bedroom. And I really, really think that there's got to be a better way to do it. And I think it was mentioned at the last hearing, Chair Petkoff said, consider flipping things around. You mentioned something about the laundry room, and then there was the whole discussion about the extensive, how large the courtyard area is. Perhaps that could be reduced. Perhaps you could change things around so things were more to the south versus on the north side of the property. And I think we're still in that same place, and it does bother me that there is this impact on the neighbors. And I do agree that the concept of putting a hedge in just means now you're looking out your window and seeing a big hedge, where I think that there could be a better compromise. The suggestion that a second story at the back of the house would be probably the best way to address the situation where the neighbor would no longer be bothered. I just think there's just so much blocking the neighbor on this one. But wood railing on the entry would be my preference. The cobblestone concept, I think, is a great concept, and glad to see the slate roof and not a standing seam metal roof. So that's good. I guess those are my comments, and I still think that doors are pretty tall and windows there's a lot of glass.
Okay, I was kind of an interesting idea that Commissioner Kara Petkoff had about putting the entry over there on the south side, which obviously cuts a corner out of the living room, which isn't great. So, but you could move the living room east wall east and get that space back. So, I mean, the second story idea, what would you put up there? It's a 2-bedroom house, right?
No, three bed.
3-bedroom? Where's the third bedroom?
Downstairs.
Downstairs. Oh, downstairs. I'm sorry. Yeah. You could put that back there, I guess. But that's not really the issue. The issue is the entryway. And it seems like you could shift that entryway over to the south, and then shift the east wall of the living room to maintain the usability of the great, it was called the great room. So it seems like there's some ways to redesign this to get to mitigate those impacts to the north neighbor. So we're not here to redesign it, but it sounds like all the commissioners feel like it needs further redesign. So we can handle this one or two ways. We can continue the item, or we can, it seems to me like we're not, we don't have a specific design here. We're just saying that it needs to be mitigated or changed to mitigate the impacts to the north neighbor. So,
Chair LePage, in some previous situations, we have given guidance as to how much further back some component of the front of the home should be, just to give more clarity. And I don't know if that's interesting to anyone here or not.
Yeah, but I still think we don't have a design, and usually when we do past the concept, we have we'll be very specific. You change a window here, or this is still in the design phase. And so, in my opinion, I think it needs to be continued. But if you want to make a motion,
I think that what's important is to send the applicant the message that this didn't work, and the neighbor still has a concern, and we've heard the neighbor's concern, and we need to see something that
and specifically why it's not working is because of the entryway where it's located, and also the fact that the house where it overlaps onto the north neighbor. So if you can move it back a little, that could mitigate the impact. Or if you could change the side of the entry to the south side, and change the layout a little bit so you can maintain usable rooms and still have the design. And maybe that room underneath could go on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
The garage could go under the great room.
Yep, that'd work.
I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out here. But it seems to me what I hear from the fellow commissioners and myself is this still needs some design tweaking to make it work. So
I'll make a motion. May I move that we continue DS 23-124, the Riken project, to a time uncertain at this point, and to allow them to respond to the suggestions and recommendations of the commission.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to continue this item to a date uncertain. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion is carried. Okay, our next item on the public hearings. Anybody want to recess, or you want to keep going?
Let's keep going.
Keep going, all right. All right, so the next item is item number 6 on the public hearings. This is another design study. This is DS 23-205. It's the, I guess, I don't know what CRI stands for, but anyway, that's the Carmel Residential Inn, is that what it was?
Resort.
Resort, sorry. Getting a little hard with these acronyms right now. Okay, this is consideration of a concept design study for demolition of a hotel cottage and accessory building and the construction of a new 1,944 square foot 2-story residence. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair LePage. That's for 12. So next one. Oh, sorry, that's okay. So the project site is a standard 4,000 square foot lot. It is part of the larger Carmel Resort Inn property. The applicant's proposing to demolish one of the hotel cottages, as well as an accessory building to construct a new 2-story single-family dwelling. So by way of a little bit of background, the Carmel Resort Inn is comprised of 16 lots of record. 8 of those lots front on Guadalupe Street between 1st and 2nd. The resort is a hotel use in the R1 single-family district. It's been used for transient lodging since 1926 and does operate under a use permit that allows for 25 hotel units. Historic evaluation was done, and it was determined that none of the buildings on the property are eligible for the historic inventory. You may recall that 2 single-family homes have already been approved for 2 of the 8 lots. So Lot 2 at Guadalupe and First was approved in April of 2023. And then right next to that, Lot 4 was approved in March of 2023. So before you this evening are the next 2 lots, which are lots 10 and 12. So we're going to look at 10 first, and then the next item will be lot 12. So the applicant is proposing a 1,944 square foot 2-story residence. This does include some basement square footage, and the garage is attached. The primary purpose of the concept review is to consider site planning, privacy and views, as well as mass and scale. Staff did not identify any privacy or view impacts for this project. This is the proposed site plan for Lot 10, which shows the building mass centrally located on the site, and you can see the attached garage at the front. With regards to mass and scale, the project does meet all development standards for plate and ridge heights. And you can see here a rendering of the front elevation on Guadalupe, which is the bottom left. And then the top right is the south elevation, which would be facing Lot 12. Here's some perspectives to also kind of demonstrate the mass and scale. You can see there's outdoor terrace just to the left of the front entry there on the second floor. And while this is concept review, we did want to give you kind of a preview of the exterior finishes. If you have any feedback for the applicant at this stage, that would be fantastic. But we're looking at a proposed stucco finish with some stone veneer accents, a wood front door and garage door, and a clay tile roof. These are the proposed exterior light fixtures. I'm sorry, I don't recall whether or not they meet all of the standards, but we'll double check that before final detail review. This just kind of gives you an idea of the design of the fixtures that are being proposed. And then the applicant has also submitted a preliminary landscape plan, which the city forester will review before the final details. And with that, staff is recommending that you accept the concept design study. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff and the commissions? Nope. Okay. Thank you. I want to invite the architect, Eric Miller, to come forward.
My name's Eric Miller. I represent the project as the architect. I pretty much concur with the staff report. We did spend some time to make sure that the mass of the building was in the center of the lot. The garage is that one-story piece. We pulled it off the front yard setback line. If you notice, it's not on the line. We just tried to push it back a little bit to give more room to the street. So, any questions?
I have a question.
Questions?
Eric, there's a very tall chimney.
Yes.
Can you explain why there is that structure?
It's a 10 and 2 rule. Marnie, can you go back to the perspectives? I think it looks tall when you look at straight on, the straight elevation, but I don't think you'll perceive it that way because it's much further back.
But it's a gas fireplace, right?
So gas, you still need 10 and 2 if you can burn wood. Now, if you can burn wood, unless you do a Class C vent, which you could do, and I'm okay to lower it if I'll ask my client if he doesn't mind not burning wood, because if you want to burn wood, it has to be that high. But also, Stephanie, if you look at the perspective.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
Because I know what you mean when you look at it straight on. But I'm open to, my client's here, so I can ask him if we can lower that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Okay. Anyone else in the chamber would like to address the Planning Commission regarding the application?
I'm getting up to get some exercise, but I like this. Thank you.
Okay, that was short and sweet. All right. I don't see anybody else in the chamber want to come forward. Anybody online got their hand up, Leah?
No one online, sir.
Okay. Close the public comments. Open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Locke, you started off, so continue.
Lovely project. So, thank you. No, I will leave that up to you as far as the chimney height. I understand obviously, if you have wood, it's one thing, but we're always trying to encourage use of natural gas, but that's fine. No, I think it's pretty. I love the finishes, the colors. I think it's really a pretty project, so I don't really have any other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dells?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add either. I like it, and it's when you kind of have a blank slate over there, and it's flat ground, and nobody behind you. You own the land behind you, and on both sides of you at this point, so that helps with the neighbors. The only thing I would ask, and this is of staff and of the applicant, is we're starting to build a neighborhood here, and we've approved 2 already on lot 2 and lot 4. We've got this one, we've got another one yet. What I would ask is, as we consider every future home, that could you remind us of what we approved, just with renderings? Because I think we got to make sure that that neighborhood, it doesn't become too matchy-matchy, if you will, and that, yeah, you know where I'm going. Other than that, I'm supportive of this.
And Commissioner Karapatkoff?
No specific comments. I was looking at the chimney, and it reminds me of a bell tower. It's kind of a, if you put a bell on top of it, you pretty have a mission, right? You pretty much have a mission. Yeah, I like the design. Yeah, it's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. From what I remember, there was a modern house iteration up on the corner. Then you had a Craftsman, and now we have a Mediterranean. So there's definitely we're not getting any kind of a tract or similar. There's a lot of variety here. And we have another house design coming up next. And I just want to compliment Eric. I really like some of the details that those cutouts in the walls with, I assume those are like tiles. That's a really nice touch. So it shows a lot of skill in your representation, your iteration of this style. Yeah, so we have a resolution, which is pretty simple. I mean, it's really not much to it.
Volume stuff.
And I didn't hear anybody want to add anything. So
I would move to approve the resolution as provided by staff.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion. Any further discussion? No. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes. Motion is carried. Okay. We're on the home stretch here. This is item number 7 on the public hearings. It's another design study, DS 23206 from the Carmel Resort Inn. And this is next door. It's on lot 12. It's construction of a 1,934 square foot 2-story residence, inclusive of an attached garage and basement. Can I have staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair LePage. So this is another standard 4,000 square foot lot, part of the larger Carmel Resort Inn. There are no existing buildings on site, although the cottage on lot 10 does slightly encroach onto this property. The applicant is proposing to construct a 1,934 square foot 2-story single-family dwelling, which includes a basement as well as an attached garage. Again, staff did not identify any privacy or view impacts. Already gave you the history, so I'm gonna skip over that. This is the site plan for lot 12. So you can see the building footprint responds to the location of that tree on site. So it's set more oriented towards the south. Here are some renderings of, again, the front elevation as well as the south elevation. The project does meet all plate and ridge height requirements. And then here are the perspectives that show you really the mass and scale, the angular roof line, and this project does have a front balcony. Here's another preview of the exterior finishes for this lot, which includes a standing seam metal roof, some vertical siding, wood garage door, and you can see the fence style, very different in character than the lot next door. The proposed light fixtures, I do believe there's a special condition regarding some of these light fixtures. So there might be some changes before final details. Again, preliminary landscape plan will be reviewed by the city forester. Staff is recommending acceptance. And I'm going to apologize on this one. An earlier version of the resolution was inadvertently included in your packet. So I prepared a red line version as well as a clean version for your consideration. Leah can pass out hard copies of those to you. So there are only 4 recommended conditions: the volume study, the tree planting requirement, small adjustment in site coverage, and then also that change in exterior lighting. Thank you.
So Marnie, you gave us 2 things here. What is this?
So one is a clean version, and then the other one's a red line, just to identify what has changed.
Oh, okay. With the blue, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
And a significant reduction in the conditions.
Is the one without the lining. Is that correct?
Yes, recommending adoption of the clean version.
Okay, all right.
So, Marty, but now that you gave me this, I have to ask, why did you remove all the conditions?
Because this is concept review and not final. Yeah, and most of those conditions are for final.
Got it. Those were for final. Okay, all right. Any other questions for staff? Are you concluded, or am I rushing you?
Nope, I'm all done.
Okay, thank you. All right, would the applicant like to come up and make their presentation?
It's funny being in here without any neighbors. It happens every 10 years or so. On this one, we wanted to feel like a mid-century modern house for the very reason you pointed out earlier, Robert. We want to make sure that it feels like a neighborhood that was developed over time. We also, if you look at the house, really opened it up. We did a reverse floor plan, and we have a deck in front and in back, because when we were doing projects during COVID, we really learned to open these smaller lots up so people can really, even in a small house, feel like they have a bigger space. We also find that if you do a reverse floor plan next to a standard floor plan, the living spaces separate vertically, and it really helps the overall neighborhood context. So we also don't think the volumetrics will be a problem, because we already took a look and we're happy to do it again for you. So.
Okay, any questions for Eric?
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Okay, members of the public like to come forward? Just going to get a little more, you're getting your 5,000 steps in today.
Thank you. When I saw this design, I won't describe what came to mind, but it did remind me of the ADU that was built, that was asymmetrical wood right across from the Cherry Center, that I realized you had nothing to do with and could do nothing about, but everyone hates that. And I think this elicits the same feeling. I'm disappointed that the neighbors aren't here this time, because the last time when he had the modern house on the corner, everybody came and said, this doesn't fit our neighborhood, this isn't what we want. And he very nicely changed it so that it became much more acceptable to the neighbors. And I was expecting the neighbors to be here today and say, this doesn't fit either, because it's very much not in keeping with the neighborhood or Carmel or the general plan. So I'm hoping that we can scrape this and start over again, maybe with a 1-story. We don't want all 2 stories either all along that street. And there are a myriad of traditional designs that can be used where they all don't look alike. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, anyone else in the chambers? Both of you? Either one of you? All right, anyone online got their hand up?
No one online.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission. Commissioner Karapetkoff, would you like to lead off?
The site elevations look nice. Actually, they look very good. I think the controversial one is the front. and it's mostly because of the amount of glass and the 412 roof coming down. I wonder if reducing the roof slope would help. Well, it will definitely help reducing the amount of glass. And I think in mid-century modern, you can go to much lower grade. Maybe you can go to like 312 or even 212, and it's still in line with the style, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't say we need to redesign or like ask for redesign of the entire house, but we could ask for some changes to hopefully change the front a little bit, because I would agree that it is a little bit overwhelming right now. So that's my initial comment. We're at the concept, right? This is not a final.
It's concept.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Dels?
I like this. I think it's unfair, Carol, to say this is comparable to what is now the second worst ADU in town.
We're grading every ADU now.
I mean, yeah, the roof line's the same. And,
from 1 to -10.
The roof line is the same. And that was a single-story thing that was put right on the property line, 3 feet from the property line, et cetera. To me, I see the mid-century modern in this. I think it's a current version of a mid-century modern. I see a tree house here. The way it's flipped so that the living quarters are up, you're in the trees. I think to have the deck on the front and the back at a raised level really allows you to bring the outside in. It almost looks a little top-heavy, which would normally be a problem for me, but I think that actually adds a little bit to this treehouse effect. It seems almost to sit on the garage element with. I think a lot of what's doing that, and again, I'm just looking at a rendering, but is the way the deck comes forward. I think that really helps with that. Kind of put it. It's clear that the living area is up there. It's kind of just from a finishes standpoint, it's modest, in that it's really mostly wood and glass. It's a lot more glass than I'm used to seeing. But again, mid-century modern had that. It's the glass at the top that I think you're going to have to hear from what my other colleagues say, but I'm okay with it. I like it.
Thank you. Commissioner Locke.
Okay. It's interesting, and I think I'm torn 2 different ways on this. I think it is interesting. I think that there's a lot of glass up there, but it's kind of cool the way you can look through and see through. I think we would greatly benefit from having you guys put together, the rendering of how all these different houses that are being proposed look together. This is such a unique location where you're creating the neighborhood. I mean, you really are creating the neighborhood, and this is a unique design for Carmel. I'm not really sure that I think it's appropriate for Carmel because it does look a little edgy. But I'm going to agree with Commissioner Delv's comments that there are things about it that are neat. But I'm going to let our chair speak and hear what he has to say at this point.
That's wise.
Put it all on me. Huh? Well, I like the design, and also I understand Carol Hall's position, but it's a position that doesn't really acknowledge the architectural history of this community. Mid-century modern is a big part of this community, and that does represent the architectural history of this community. And this is a nice example of that. I mean, it's very well balanced. It's really thought out well. It's got, like Commissioner Dell's pointed out, it's got a bit of a treehouse feel to it, which I think is very cool. You know, it's modulated back. I mean, you could say that it has mass and bulk, but really it's modulated back because of the decks. So there's a lot of lower planes before you get to the upper planes. And I think it was interesting, the comment about it looks like the ADU over, can't remember exactly where that is, but this has another structure that balances it out. Has a roof that goes down the other side and creates I assume that's a clear story up there with some windows. I haven't really identified that on the floor plan, but
Stairway.
But I'm pretty sure there's probably some windows along. Yeah, there's some windows along there. So it's a really interesting, nice mid-century modern. And I don't feel like it's our business to start redesigning, a skilled architect's representation of a mid-century modern. And it meets all the standards, and I don't see one member in the neighborhood here that's saying anything, so I'm willing to trust the architect here. And it certainly is representative of this community and its architectural history. So we have a resolution, which I don't have open. Which I assume it's this is a design study. I don't think there was probably many draft conditions any more than the last one.
You have the hard copy in front of you.
Oh, that's right. We got to revise. I forgot that we have the. That's why I don't have it open. So they were pretty straightforward. The only thing I think staff had they weren't quite sure about the lights, so there could be some changes. Site coverage was site coverage was in line. Tree planting requirements, volume study. So unless any of the other commissioners have something they wanted added to the draft conditions, I would make a motion that we accept are we referring to this as the revised staffed or what are we referring this to?
About the resolution that was handed out to us by staff.
Yeah.
That work for you?
Yes.
Okay.
And it is revised.
The current resolution as presented by staff to the commission for this project. I make a motion that we accept it as presented by staff.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I believe that concludes the public hearings tonight.
Well done.
Is there any director's report?
I will save it for tomorrow, but I do want to just thank the commission again for making yourselves available for this special meeting. We did get through 6 projects tonight, and I know the applicants and the owners really appreciate the opportunity to get their projects on the agenda this month. So thank you so much for making yourselves available.
And we're getting out here before 7. That's great.
Okay, as they say in the movie biz, that's another one in the can.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
So hip roof.
What?
Hip roof.
It's good. Pretty good, huh? Pull that one out.
So explain. I know hip roof versus
Well,
the gables.
it was just glaring ass. I mean, the front house is a hip roof, and there's this thing sticking straight up in the back. I'm like,